Alright, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say, call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Hamashiach, Yahushua. That's all praise to the Most High in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother Taza Rock from Phoenix Sakari. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more edification. And subscribe to any Sakari channel out there. Disclaimer, I am outside, so if you hear birds, if you hear planes, if you hear helicopters, all that, just bear with me. Which I know the deal. If you like the video, then go ahead and like the video. If you found this video edifying, share the video. Baba Kushah. Help a brother out so other brothers and sisters can receive the same knowledge that you have received, and so on and so forth. If you got precepts that I didn't pull out, go ahead and bring them out. Put them in the comment section, and edify your brother as well. So without further ado, the last video that I did was going into Acts 10, how Christians will use Peter's vision as a way to say that all foods are clean. Now we're going to get the understanding that Cornelius was an Israelite, because that's who that vision was meant for, was Cornelius. Proving emphatically that he was an Israelite. Now, some things are not going to be strictly saying that he's an Israelite, but they're points to point forward that he is an Israelite. First question I would use to pose, or I would pose against the Christian, would be, can you prove to me what nation he came from? Because that is the most important thing. Proving what nation he came from. If you say that he comes from another nation, then you would have to prove what nation he came from. But they can't do it. So what they go to is Acts 10:28, and it reads, "And he said unto them, Ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God has shewed me that I should not call any man common or unclean." Boom. So we're into this in the last video. This is what Peter's vision is speaking about. They'll say, see, Peter is saying that it is an unlawful thing for a Jew to keep company of another nation. See, he's another nation. He's a nation outside of Israel. Cool. Okay. First things first is show me in the law, because he says it is a unlawful thing. So show me in the law where it is a sin to keep company of one of another nation. The only time where heathens are not allowed to congregate is during certain feast days. They're not allowed to congregate. Stay away. Understand what I'm saying? So we could see Job, that he was dealing with an Edomite when he was laying on his deathbed. David was dealing with heathens. Solomon had concubines, which are heathen wives. Samson as well. Moses had a Midianite wife. So it can't be a sin to be dealing with them. There's a reason why Peter was saying this, and we're going to get there. But first, another deal, we got to start at top. There's no really quick cuts on this. This is just a thorough breakdown on Cornelius. So Acts 10:1 says, there is a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius. Boom, off top. Where is Caesarea at? If he is a non-Israelite from another land, where is Caesarea at? Because this is where he was dwelling at. Come here. Boom. I know my phone's on airplane mode. So we see here, Caesarea. It's right there. Right above Samaria. Right under Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, so on and so forth. So we see here that this is all Israel, which is also proving that the woman of Samaria is actually an Israelite, because she's still dwelling in Samaria. So we have the southern kingdom down low, which is the orangish area. The blue up top is the northern kingdom territory. And we see that Caesarea is part of that northern kingdom territory. Southern kingdom was not rocking with the northern kingdom. That's, every biblical scholar would understand that the southern kingdom and northern kingdom, they were warring against each other. And we're going to get more into that. So we have a 1 point pointing towards he was an Israelite because he was dwelling in Israel. Not that doesn't solidify that he's an Israelite off of that point alone, but that proves that he was living in Israel. A centurion of the band called the Italian band. Cool. So they might use this to say, see, he was of the Italian band. Well, it's no new thing that in another land you have somebody fighting for your country that's not, you know, that's not really the ethnicity that rules that country. You know what I'm saying? You have Paul was a Roman citizen. Rome is in Italy. So he's technically of the Italian band because he's a Roman citizen. And he definitely was persecuting the church. But let's go here. This is Roman or Acts 18:2. Found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla. So we see here that Jews are residing in Italy. He's coming from Italy. And he was a Jew, which is an Israelite. That doesn't prove that Cornelius was an Israelite, but that's 2 points pointing to he could be an Israelite. All right, cool. Let's go back to Acts 10. Verse 2. A devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people, and prayed to God always. Cool. So, with the author of Acts, which the book of Acts is just a recording of the actions of the disciples and apostles after Christ's death, he writes in a certain terminology. Everybody knows this. People might use certain words to describe certain things. They have their words that they like to use, the way they talk. That's their terminology. The author of Acts has their own terminology. We can prove that like this. Acts 2:5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. So we see here that he's saying that these Jews that were dwelling under every nation, or in every nation under heaven, they're called devout men. So that's Israelites. Those are Israelites who are called devout men by the author of Acts. Let's go to Acts 8:2. It says, we'll start at 1. And Saul was consenting unto his death, and at that time there was a great persecution against the church which was at Jerusalem, and they were all scattered abroad throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. So we see here that there's a persecution of those who are preaching Christ, the Jews. We see this, the scattered abroad, James 1:1, the 12 tribes of Israel, which were scattered abroad. So boom, speaking about Israelites. Verse 2, and devout men carried Stephen, who was an Israelite, to his burial, and made great lamentation over him. So we have these Israelites who were called devout men again, carrying Stephen to his burial. Again, these are 2 cases outside of Acts 10 where an Israelite is called a devout man. Let's go to 22 and 12. Now again, these are not solidifying that Cornelius was an Israelite, but these are points proving he's an Israelite. Acts 22:12. And one Ananias, an Israelite, a devout man, according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there. We see here again, 3 cases, Israelites are called devout men. Why would we then think that he's calling, that this wouldn't be an Israelite who he's also calling a devout man? 3 points towards him being an Israelite. Verse 3. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him, and saying unto him, Cornelius. What is so symbolic about him receiving that vision in the 9th hour? There's something that's so, that proves that he's doing what he's supposed to do as an Israelite in the 9th hour. Watch, I'm going to read this too. Verse 9. On the morrow, right here, let me highlight it real quick. Boom. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh to the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. So we have Cornelius receiving this vision in the ninth hour, and Peter praying about the 6th hour. There is something that is equivocal. There's two different things that can prove that this is speaking about Israelites. One of them is this. This is Matthew 27, verse 45. This is before Christ died. It says, "Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour." So we see here now again, Miami. Bear with me. I know the wind's blowing. It's nice outside. It was better to do the video outside. So in the 6th hour there was darkness, and then all the way up until the 9th hour before Christ died. Now let's get why Christ died. John 11:49. And one of them, named Caiaphas, start right here, reading all this. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all. So Caiaphas is speaking. He's saying, all y'all are ignorant. You're dumb. You don't know nothing. Nor consider that is it expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. So we have Christ dying for that nation, Israelites, that the whole nation don't perish away. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that same year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. So Peter was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He was a Jew. He was circumcised. He was on point. But in Peter's time, they looked at the northern kingdom as another nation, and those who were not circumcised as another nation. And we're going to prove that. But it says, but not for that nation only, but to gather together the children of God, which were scattered abroad. James 1:1. There's more. You can use Tobit 13:3. So on and so forth. But James 1:1, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Christ died because a specific prophecy that needed to be fulfilled. But there's a prophecy that's still being, played in today's time, which I'm going to get in a second. Bear with me. But we see here, one of the things that is symbolic is Christ dying, because it was dark from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. Cornelius received his vision in the 9th hour, and Peter prayed in the 6th hour. That's one of the reasons. And we understand that Christ died so that he can make, I'm going to get the scripture in a second, but I'm going to paraphrase it right now, that he can make these two sticks become one stick. And there's no barrier between us. There's no barrier between the circumcised and the uncircumcised. There's no barrier between the northern and the southern kingdom. We're all one people. So, let's go back to Acts. Here's what's more detrimental. Acts 10:3. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming in to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. Verse 31, right here. And said, Cornelius, thy prayer is heard, and thine alms are laid in remembrance in the sight of God. So Peter or Cornelius was praying in this 9th hour. Cool. Acts 3:1. Now Peter and John, Israelites, went up together into the temple at the hour of prayer, being the 9th hour. It was an ancient Hebraic custom that we prayed at the 9th hour. So Cornelius was keeping a Israelite custom, praying at the 9th hour. That is why he received that vision in the 9th hour. Proving also, Cornelius was living in Israel. He was called a devout man, and the author of Acts called Israelites devout men. He was of the Italian band, but we see here that Jews come from Italy. Paul. And he was keeping this Hebraic custom of him praying in the 9th hour. Cool. Go back to Acts 10:1. Let's see. That's speaking about Peter's vision. Let's go to verse 22. Here's where I'm going to prove that we were looked at as different nations. We weren't dealing with each other like how, we're meant to. So, give me 1 second. I put my hair in a ponytail. It says, and they said, Cornelius, the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of a good report, among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into his house and hear the words of thee. So we see here that it is saying the nation of the Jews. Jews are only 3 tribes: Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. That's not all the tribes of Israel. So you have us viewing each other as different nations, the nation of the Jews. That's not speaking about everybody or all the tribes of Israel. Watch this. Let's get Ezekiel first. Matter of fact, Ezekiel 37 and 22. It says, this is that prophecy that I was speaking about, and it says, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, speaking about the northern and the southern kingdom, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more 2 nations, neither shall they be divided into 2 kingdoms any more at all. We viewed each other as different nations. It wasn't one nation of Israel. It was the children of Israel and the children of Judah, the northern and the southern kingdom. We weren't, all, kumbaya and, on one accord. It wasn't like that. We was like, nah, he's a heathen. That is another nation. We don't deal with y'all. But watch this. This is Genesis 48 and 17. We'll start at 18. It says, and Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. Speaking about Ephraim and Manasseh. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. Paul quotes this in Romans 11 and 25, where it says the fullness of the Gentile. When you go into that word multitude, another word for it, or if you go into the interlinear definition, it's fullness. And Gentile simply means nation or nations. So this is what Paul was quoting in Romans 11 and 25. But we see here that Ephraim is going to become a multitude of nations. But we're only reckoned as one nation sometimes. That we are 2 nations, and we are reckoned as multiple nations. So that debunks all that. Let's go to Acts 10:28, because this is what they would call their cold cut. Acts 10 and 28. But it really cuts himself. So, and he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. So, again, show me in the law where it is a unlawful thing for a Jew to keep company or keep the presence or congregate with one of another nation. It doesn't work when you read the Old Testament. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, let's see what this is speaking about. Again, in verse 22 says the nation of the Jews. And you go read Ezekiel and Genesis, speaking about multiple nations. Let's go here. This is Acts 10, 28. Boom. I gotta turn this on real quick. So we come here. Boom. One of another nation. Alophilos, Philos, there's ways that people pronounce it. Foreign. That's what it means. But peep this. It's made of two different definitions. When you see here at the top, Strong's definition G243 and G5543. Let's get this one first. Boom. Allos or alos, another or other. Cool. One of another nation. Here's where this whole thing gets debunked, because again, this is to keep company of one of another nation. Strong's G5443. It's Phule, a tribe. In the New Testament, all the persons descending from one of the 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob. He was viewed as another nation, but he still was an Israelite. Even when you go into that word of, or words of another nation, it's simply meaning another of the 12 tribes of the sons of Jacob. This cuts their whole verse that they go to prove that Cornelius was not an Israelite. Let's go back here. Throw this on before somebody calls me. Boom. So, doesn't work. Can't show me where it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company of another nation. Let's keep going down. Verse 34. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth I perceive that God is no respecter of persons. Speaking about Deuteronomy 1:17. Respect no man, respect no persons in judgment. God doesn't respect no people in judgment. David was a man after the Most High's heart, but when he went off, he went off. And the Most High had to correct him and make it known. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, if that's not what that's talking about, just if, how would you then reconcile this? Exodus 2:25, last verse. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. I thought God wasn't a respecter of persons. Stopped it. Don't know the Bible. Go back to Acts 10:34. We will read 35. But in every nation, he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. So, again, they'll use this to try to see, that's another way to prove that Cornelius was in fact a non-Israelite. Keep reading. The word, which is what was spoken about in the verses above, which God sent unto the children of Israel, preaching peace by Yahushua HaMashiach, he is Lord of all. They use this word, see, it says Lord of all, and every nation. We're not going to sit up here and disregard that he said, the word that I speak unto you, children of Israel. Acts 2:5. You have Jews in Jerusalem out of every nation of heaven. You know, you read Tobit 13:3. You read Luke 21:24. We're scattered amongst all of these nations. So that does not work when you read the Bible in totality. You got to eat the whole roll. Let's go to Acts 11. This is Peter speaking about him dwelling with Cornelius. Because again, if you were uncircumcised, the circumcised looked at you as another nation. They didn't look at you as someone who is part of their nation and keeping their customs and, you know, all that. You were lower than the average Israelite. You understand what I'm saying? So, now again, bear with me through the wind. Acts 11:1. And the apostles and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles had also received the word of God. And when Peter, now I'm going to go in another video, which is probably going to be the next video, I'm going to go into the word Gentiles and nations and heathen, proving that most of the time it's speaking about Israelites, and then some other times it's speaking about non-Israelites. It just depends on the context. But we'll get into that later. Verse 2. And when Peter was come to Jerusalem, They that were of the circumcision contended with him. So the men who were circumcised, they're speaking to Peter about this matter, him going to Cornelius, saying, Thou wentest in to men uncircumcised and didst eat with them. The circumcised is getting on Peter because he's like, yo, why are you talking to those who are uncircumcised? They viewed those people as another nation. Not because he was of an ethnic other nation, but because he wasn't circumcised. He wasn't born in the land. He wasn't living in the land type thing. Verse 3, saying, Thou wentest to men uncircumcised and didst eat with them. But Peter rehearsed the matter from the beginning and expounded it by order unto them. So now he's going, from the top. I was dwelling with Joppa, or in the city of Joppa. I received a vision. It speaks about that vision. And when I woke up, verse 11, and behold, immediately there was 3 men already come unto the house where I was, sent from Caesarea unto me, speaking about Cornelius, the messengers that Cornelius had sent. Going into it, had their peace for as much as. Boom, verse 18. When they heard these things, they held their peace and glorified God, saying, Then hath God also to the Gentiles granted repentance unto life. Now they which are scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephen traveled as far. That's not what I want. So basically we see here, the moral of the story, he wasn't circumcised, he wasn't living in Jerusalem, he wasn't, doing as the Jews wanted him to do, so they viewed him as another nation, though he still was an Israelite. They can't run Acts 10 and 28 because when you break down that word of another nation, it's speaking of another, one of the 12 sons of the one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Can't go to verse 22 because that proves our point even more, because it says the nation of the Jews. They can't go to 34 because the next verse after that says that the word was sent unto the children of Israel. They can't go to 1, 2, or 3. The whole thing proves that Cornelius was in fact an Israelite. So that concludes this video, man. I hope y'all found this edifying. You really only hear Cornelius in Acts 10 and 11. Go ahead and take this breakdown, add unto it, find your quick code cuts. Sometimes somebody will let you break it down, sometimes people won't, they'll want to move on. But I hope y'all found information. If y'all did, be genuine, share the video so other people can receive the same information. Like the video, comment on it, comment whatever you like, just don't scoff, y'all know what I'm saying. So but yeah, y'all know the deal, man. Go ahead and subscribe to any Sakari channel out there. Subscribe to this channel to get more edification. But with that, I want to say, Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim Hamashiach Yahushua. That's all praise to the Most High in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, and Kwam Yasharallah.